Hopefully you can hear me. We have a guest star for those watching. Little guest star right here named Rocky. I'm the one he's the one that's in control of the podcast, y'all. Anywho, what is today's episode gonna be about? I could just do a little, like the beginning, like, oh, it's episode 5, right? And with it being episode 5, I can talk about a little about numerology for those that um, are new to numerology. What is numerology, huh? What is numerology? And for those listening, I have my little sweet baby in my lap. So he's going to be looking at me here and there. So, numerology is pretty much a belief where if you can use it as a divinity, like a divination tool. Like for example, angel numbers. People will see angel numbers all the time here and there, where it's like 3 of the same number. So 444, 555, 777, for example. And you can actually apply that as a sign or a message for whatever it is that you're thinking of in the moment when you see the sign. And let's talk about numerology 5. For myself, the number 5 means change. However, others can be like, this is just a number that brings good faith, a number that just will allow you, because it allows you to just keep good faith for yourself. And with that being said, the number 5 for me, it automatically means change. And I think this is a great way to segue what I do want to focus on during this specific episode for episode 5. And you'll see the title for what it is. I feel like right now I would love to just title it Consuming equals confusion. And what do I mean by consuming equals confusion? It might change based on what I think later on. However, that's just me brainstorming, and this shows you how do I brainstorm? Like, this allows you to see the thought process behind what I do create. I will allow myself to at least begin an idea, and then I plant that seed, and then eventually it sprouts. Sometimes when we plant a seed, we might not know what seed we're planting, and then it sprouts into we thought we planted like a small little succulent, but my cat looked at the camera, don't mind me. We will then, your fur is acting weird. We will then, oh, you're gonna be my little audience. He's gonna watch me as I speak to you guys. Hello, baby. We might do, it might not even be a second, but like we might think it's like a seed of a daisy plant, right? Or a daisy flower. And then it ends up growing into this big tree. But that's a side note. We're digressing, as one of my good friends, Kira, would like to say. I haven't spoken to Kira in years, in a year or so, months maybe. But I do need to reach out to them and check on them. Shout out to you, Kira. As I digress from what we were speaking about, I feel like this episode should focus on the consumption equaling out to confusion. And what do I mean by consumption or consuming, for example? When we are consuming, I'm speaking about what are we intaking every day? Like, are we just constantly viewing TikTok? Are we constantly scrolling whatever app it might be? Like, how are we consuming in our day-to-day lives? Like, are we, like, is the only thing that we're doing watching TV? Are we just watching what we consume on the apps? Are we just consuming a lot of YouTube? Are we what are we consuming? It can even go down to what we're eating, but this is not about that. This is more so the intake of media. So, with that being said, it can even be the music. That's why I say media alone. What how much media are we consuming in our day-to-day aspects? Are we contributing a 9 to 5 job doing so? Like, how many hours are we spending on the media for which we are consuming? And then on top of that, what are we consuming within the media itself? Are we constantly consuming, for example, I listen to true crime, however I do it in doses. I will do it in doses because it will not be healthy to consume it at the rate of listening to it every day or hourly each day, because we are putting that into, we're consuming that in energetically, or we are also consuming it in the sense of, if I were to listen to true crime at the rate of hourly every day, I would be feeling a lot of paranoia. That's for me at least. And when we think about what we are consuming, how does it make us feel deep down? Do we actually feel passionate about it? Are we just consuming it because it's an actual addiction that we're not paying mind to? And media intake can become addicting. Like, my current addiction that I have is Monopoly Go. That's my current addiction. And recently I've gotten to the point of, oh my god, I'm spending a lot of time onto this game, this app, and it's just me going around in a square. And I'm not shaming any of us who play this. It's just, I was trying to be realistic and be like, is this actually investing into me, or am I just solely investing my energy into this app and game with nothing in return? And I'm not approaching it with that mindset of, oh, it owes me something, because that's a whole nother episode that we can do, you know. That's a whole nother episode of having that it's like the episode I already made, like expectations versus intentions. Like, if you approach life with the egoic stance of, when you invest in someone and then they automatically owe you something, that feels a lot like you are viewing them as a property. It just, there's a certain kind of ick I get when I feel that, or I'll hear someone like move in the way where they'll do stuff with the motivation behind it being that someone will have to owe them something in return. I'm like, you sound like very conditional. And maybe I can do an episode about conditions versus, or conditional versus unconditional. However, we will not focus on that this episode. We're focusing more on the consumption uh intake, you know. I just bring awareness to this specific topic because I, with doing these podcasts, or with my writing, or with my reading, or with my whatever it is that I've been doing when it comes to creating, I have realized I have been consuming more than creating. I realized I have been consuming more than creating itself. And when someone comes into that realization, as someone that loves to create, I just felt so almost defeated. I was like, how did I get back into this loop of consuming versus creating? And that's because I didn't allow myself the balance of having, just allowing myself segmenting. Oh my god, that's gonna be a whole nother episode too. Segmenting. We'll get to that eventually. Uh, I didn't realize that I stopped segmenting uh parts of my day, or just segmenting segments of my day towards like, oh, let's allow ourselves to consume, and then be mindful of what we are consuming. And that's why I say whenever I do, because I have found myself in the loop too, besides just being addicted to like Monopoly, I binge watch shows and I don't allow myself to truly enjoy the show as it is. I go through it as if it's like what's the word? I have it written down because I've been focusing on it recently. And it's going to be either an article that I write, or what's the word? I've written it recently. The immediate gratification is pretty much that brings such a quick fuse, and it doesn't allow like a slow burn. And I'm someone that prefers a slow burn. I love just taking the time and enjoying it for what it is, rather than that instant gratification, that quick fuse that's just gonna blow out as soon as it's done being lit, rather than having a slow burn type of candle. It's like lighting a match. It's as quick as it goes. And I I realized I was acting out of a mindset of instant gratification. And that's why when I play Monopoly Go, I don't really feel good, because it's instant gratification of how I act when I'm playing the game. And it makes me feel a little icky, so I'm probably going to eventually stop playing it. I'm at that point. Uh, in fact, a lot of the games that I play, I end up having that mindset of instant gratification, and it's like I'm trying to put a band-aid or a quick fix on enjoying the moment. And I find myself feeling frustrated because of those actions or the consumption that I've allowed to become more than just the segments that I utilize in every day. I It was going against, because I'll end up sitting there 30 minutes to an hour and I'll just play it, and I'm like, oh my god, this has taken over my livelihood. This little game has taken over my livelihood. And so much so that where I'm gonna check it now, but because I'm aware of what I'm talking about, I'm just gonna not open that app. And it's like I recently is the word I was trying to say. I have found myself feeling frustrated with having certain people on my Facebook, and I'm not shaming them, and I'm not, what's the word? I'm not judging them or thinking I'm better than them. I just don't want to consume the content for which they are sharing or reposting on their feed. I am just over it. I'm like, I don't want to see this every time I log onto Facebook. I don't want to be tagged onto this. This isn't for, no, and a lot of people think I'm like, the ones that this would probably, and no, we're not even going to say it, because this sounds like I'm trying to care about others' things, and I'm not. I'm moving forward. I realized I cared a little bit too much about what people thought. And it's to the point where I am going to be unfriending people, because or unfollowing them at least. I can't justify people's behavior either. And I know I'm not the judge or of someone's life to be justifying their behavior. I know what I want in my life, and that's what I desire in my life, and that's not it. I don't move in that energy like I used to. And I just I'm moving on. I'm exiting that cycle for which I no longer want to entertain or repeat. And it's gonna bring out some feelings that I know I've been muting or keeping at a bay from staying friends with certain people on my Facebook. And that alone shows people like, oh my gosh, why are we like beating around the bush, like when it comes to our feelings? Why are we purposely it's because we're trying to please people. And as someone that's come into the awareness that people pleasing is a form of the deepest form of manipulation, if you think about it, or if you study it, you become aware of how much people pleasing is manipulation at its finest. And as someone who's been a very deep it was so ingrained in my bones, as someone that's been a people pleaser, I still find myself almost wanting to enter that loop again, and I'm like, don't do it. It's like a regurgitated type of reaction that comes from my body when I realize, oh my god, I'm about to people please. It's a everyday effort that I invest into myself. I'm like, you are about to people please realize what you're doing in this moment. And I realized that a lot of my people pleasing tendencies would even pour out into like give like one of my love languages, where I love to give people gifts. And I'm trying to be aware of it, uh, while utilizing different methods of approach going forward. Because I realize part of that too is like I used to want to buy people with like affection or love, not in a romantic sense, more so of like, oh, can I buy your love of friendship? And I realize a lot of people in the past, they know that it probably wasn't too deep on those intentions, but I see it for what it is. And it's because growing up, I've had a lot of adults, this is a conditioning that I'm becoming aware of. Growing up, I've had a lot of adults who would buy me gifts as a way of buying my affection. And I'm saying that out loud for the first time, even though I've been thinking about this for the past few months or maybe a year or so. And I don't shame anyone when I talk about this. This is just more so awareness of a certain conditioning that that I am actively unlearning, is what I would like to say, rather than trying, because trying feels, the connotated meaning of that word alone is like, let's think about it. Let's be mindful of what we're saying. Hello? You're such a sweet baby. I love this baby. He's my biggest fan. And I'm his biggest fan. As I continue filming for this, I've come into that awareness of uh how what we consume brings a lot of confusion. The more we the more we consume, the more confused we are about our reality. I say this as someone who had once, I put myself in such a psychosis because I would watch so many tarot readings, for example. I would not discern, and I would try to fit so many things into like my reality that wasn't really aligned to me, but also, what's the word? As as someone that also um tried to fit just energies that were not aligned for the betterment of my livelihood. I don't really turn to tarot reads for that anymore. I would be entered into such a psychosis. I find myself, if I'm doing tarot reads, I do them for myself because, again, it's being mindful about who we consume from as well. We will not think about the people as having their own way of beliefs or way that they word things. For example, this tarot reader might believe that there's only male and female people that exist. They don't even consider the LGBTQIA plus community or the spectrum for which gender is not an actual thing. It is, but it's not, you know? It's only that way because society deems it to be so. The majority of society, I should say. And it's very it's annoying. And it's like trying to fit, I don't know, when you do a reading, right? A lot of times, especially, this is as someone that formerly, in the beginning of like discovering what tarot readings were and stuff, in the beginning, I would consume this information, and it was from such a manipulative mindset of like, oh my god, this person loves me. And I'm like, oh, it's so gross to think about. And I try not to shame that version of myself. However, I am mindful that that version of myself was a little bit, well, let's be, this was a little bit more manipulative and trying to make things fit that were not meant to fit. Like, at all. At all. Right? Or I would try to make these connections fit that were not good for myself or good for them. You know? And it's like, what are you doing with your life? Now, when I do tarot readings, I do them for myself. I don't necessarily watch, unless it's like certain people that we have the same mindset of life. Like, I can just feel it from the words that they use or the way that they view things, how they express them. I'm mindful about who I get my readings from because everyone reading isn't always out for the best intentions. There's gonna be, notice my sinuses start acting up when I'm making videos. It's because I talk a lot and I need to drink some water in the process. Woo! I get congested for some reason, bud. Right? Hold on. Everybody sipping in the water. If people don't want to listen to that, just do what you can. I am done sipping water. Woo. But yeah, I feel like this version of myself is trying to come through people. If you are consuming readings, tarot reading wise, on a video platform, be mindful of how someone views it, because not everyone has the best intentions when they create readings. Especially if it's love readings, I do not recommend it. There's only like one or two people I would recommend watching a love reading for, but like, again, I feel like when someone tries to get a reading on anyone, and this is as someone who has done a reading for someone when it comes to being paid for it, you know, being commissioned for it is what I like to say. As someone who was commissioned to do a love reading for someone in the past, I felt very ick while doing it, and I never offered a love reading again after that. I said, this is, no, if I'm doing a reading, it's about career or advice that one could utilize towards their desired reality. Because tarot readings are more of a divination tool, and a lot of us will end up abusing that tool to have instant gratification, to have love, or to fit something that's not meant to be fit into our lives, like it's not the puzzle piece that's going to fit. All right. And that's why I say a lot of times readers will have that knowledge. If they are reading, they have that knowledge when it comes to love. And it's like, first of all, we have free will. At least I have the belief that we have free will. And when we're doing readings and stuff on someone else's free will, we're trying to make them fit into our life. Just, it doesn't even have to be love or romance, We're trying to, it feels very manipulative and very controlling. And that's why I don't know why we got into this segment or segue of the video. I feel like I'm digressing. This is just a version of myself that was wanting to come through. So we came through, and now we can focus back on being mindful of who we consume from, what we are consuming, even the why and how we're doing it. The how is how many hours are we doing it. The why is what is the purpose behind me consuming this. Like, for example, Monopoly Go, I am consuming it for the instant gratification that it gives me. And I'm not shaming that. I'm just seeing it for what it is. The what am I consuming? Monopoly Go, it's honestly, I feel like deep down, it's about greed. Deep down. And then, who are we consuming it from? Yeah. Let's do an example. True crime, right? Who are we consuming? That's just true crime itself. What are we consuming? The what is whatever the subject's about. It's talking about murder a lot of time. Think about that. Do we want to consistently listen to that all the time? And I'm a true crime listener, okay? I'm not shaming anyone when I say this. It's just being mindful of how much we consume it, hourly. What we're consuming, who it's being produced by. So one of the people I listen to are Ashley Flowers. Hello. And Britt. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so I'm not gonna attempt it right now. But they're called Crime Junkie, and I really like listening to those two because they are very active in the community. They are very active in focusing on cases that don't get enough media, enough attention, as in like people of color, as in like, because like a lot of times those big cases that we see are often of white people or a white woman, let's be quite frank, and they do their best. So far they are doing their best to be active in highlighting people of color in cases like that, and the LGBTQ community as well. With that being said, though, like, who is doing it, right? And then the why. And personally, the reason I listen to the crime podcast or like true crime, I personally like to listening to it because I love forensics. I personally love cold case files because those files have died, and it's like, can someone solve them? It's pretty much, I personally like the cold case ones because it's someone whose case hasn't been solved yet. It's still a mystery. Part of it's paranoia. How much can I learn about what's happening in the world today for my own safety? I'm aware of it, and yeah, there's other reasons. I almost got into the forensic field. I personally wanted to be a medical examiner to for cold case files actually. Maybe I'll still do it. I don't know. Right now, this version of myself. Um, it would be cool to be a medical examiner. That would be like my little job that I do to like, and it doesn't even have to be medical examining, but I love the body. I don't get grossed out by like, just the thought of examining a dead body. It's more so, oh my god, how can I honor this person now that their soul has left the body? How can I give them, and if I were to do like cold cases, right? How can I provide that assurance that they have the evidence they need for when that cold case finally gets solved? You might see me become a doctor someday as a medical examiner or something in the forensic field, because I feel like there's not enough justice when it comes to evidence being properly examined or properly put into evidence. You know what I mean. Okay. Yeah, that's a little part of me I haven't really talked about. Growing up, I would watch like just those shows like CSI, and every time my favorite scene is I'm eating, and it's just like it shows like the body being examined on the table. I just love that kind of stuff. I have the stomach for it, I don't get queasy or nauseous when I think about it or look at something. I'm like, I'm just intrigued, and I would love to eventually honor that part of me that does want to do medical examining. I also, another part of me wants to do psychology. That's for a later version of myself, though. Yeah, that's why I say be mindful of what you consume. Is it aligning to you, or are you just consuming it to consume it? For example, I don't think TikTok is meant to be consumed for hours, and even they have that whole warning. If you're watching it more than an hour, it'll pop up, hey, you've been watching TikTok for a while, do you want to kind of take a break? Even TikTok has its own warning with the label itself, and every time I get into that point, I'm like, I have been mindlessly, aimlessly scrolling without a purpose. And I don't shame us or shame myself when I say that. It's just being mindful of like, how can we do this for the betterment of our livelihood? Like, that's why I am going to allow myself to go back to scrolling with a purpose. I will open my app to see who's posted of my friends, This is where the consumption, I try to take a more creative aspect, and I just post on TikTok. I post it, I let it go into the world. For example, I just posted this one thing on an account that I haven't told anyone about yet. And I'm going to keep it like that for a minute until I just continue posting about it. But I just recently posted, and it's already popping off, and I don't really do it for the views or the likes. It's just me sharing a part of myself into the world. And that's why I actually had a conversation with a couple people, a cousin or two, and then some friends of mine that we talk about our creative stuff with, meaning we have this safe space where we can just talk about whatever's on our mind. And I was just talking about them like this. I'm like, I've come to a point where I don't want to consume at the rate that I have been. I would rather just create and post it into the world, get off the app, stop scrolling, and then allow the time or energy to be invested into whatever else I'm focusing on in the day. And yeah, when we consume so much media, versus investing in ourselves. So we could, instead of like consuming just some regular YouTube video that we consume, or just the hour aimlessly scrolling on TikTok, the doom scroll, uh instead of doom scrolling or just watching some video on YouTube, or just watching something on whatever platform we're streaming our shows on or movies on, we find ourselves consuming versus actually, maybe I can invest in myself. Maybe I can just research something I want to learn through YouTube. Watch a video, I learn that way. Or there's something like a free course online, like the Oklahoma School for the Deaf. They have currently until June something. They currently have two free ASL courses, ASL 1 and ASL 2. Instead of like binge watching a show, I will allow myself to invest my time and energy towards learning the ASL. Speaking of, I gotta start that. I need to start that. I really do, and I'm not being hard on myself. I realize I have signed up for it and I have no activity in it, and I don't know how much content is in it, and I know it's only available until June something. So we've gotta focus some of our energy on that, instead of just binge watching a show, which I have been doing. And I am trying to be mindful and not shaming myself in the process of all of this, mainly because I also have been filming a lot of episodes and just creating the content for that. And I actually finished today. I was able to finish my article that's going to be releasing on the same day that my episode 2 gets released on. And it's so fun. It's so much fun, I am excited to bring the knowledge that I live and breathe every day to the world, and so I don't gatekeep it. Yeah. Whew. How are you approaching what you consume every day? The more we consume, versus investing in ourselves or creating, the more that we consume, the more confusion that comes. We become so misguided and limited because we are consuming so much by whoever it is, with whatever beliefs that person has. Because let's think about it, we are consuming consistently by whoever it is. They have their own form of beliefs, and it might not even align to our own beliefs in lives, and here we are consuming from this person or show, from this whatever it is that we don't even believe in, yet we're consuming it. And that action alone brings that, it pretty much invites the energy into our system. It rewires our system. Even though we know that this is not what we believe in, we still are acting through it because of how much consumption we have allowed to overtake our lives. Yeah. It's even like gaming, for example. I I can't speak from the Monopoly Go aspect, which I'm probably going to delete this app the more that I think about it. I find myself just like, I've been just consuming more time into that app than humanly feasible or possible to think about. And yeah, a lot of times I'll just quit things cold turkey because I'm like, I just gotta do it, because if I don't, I'm gonna continue putting time into this app instead of investing it elsewhere. And the more I play this app, the more my brain is just confused with how much time I've invested into it, with no investing it into myself. Yeah. I feel we all become more confused with life the more we consume rather than create or invest into ourselves. Woo! Well, this little baby in mine and I, we're gonna get off so I can eat something. And I appreciate you for watching this episode. The title will be whatever I title it as, and yeah, we love you as always. Much love to you, to you, and to you in your journey. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching.
I'm just testing out how this mic will feel because I have audio feedback in episode 2, episode 3, and it might be in episode 4 when I go back and review it. So this is just a bloopers for episode 5 because I'm feeling kind of frazzled about this, and honestly, this is the beginning. This is just the process. It's a process of learning how can we do this best, And with that being said, that's the bloopers of this episode, so that y'all have, I filmed this specific episode February 28th, and now it's March 6th, 2 days after my 27th birthday. Let's go. I will probably be attempting to just do this kind of mic. Hopefully it's better audio feedback than what my episodes have been. And I low-key just want to leave the episodes as is so that people can see how I grew as I figure out this mic situation, because I have a whole fancy smanchy mic over there. I haven't used it. I've just been doing this route because I haven't figured that out yet. But it's okay. We're going through the process, And, I was actually going to add more to this episode when it comes to me speaking about tarot readings and how that version of me wanted to come through in this episode when... Hello, my cat's in the video with me, but he likes to just show up when I talk on a video or on a phone call. It's so cute. With that being said, the whole love reading aspect, I felt like I should add more to the bloopers for anyone that wants to stay around and watch. It's only for those. That's what it feels like. For the love reading aspect that I spoke about, I felt that version of me was just wanting to be like, hey, make sure you vet out the people that you get readings from if you are going to do love readings. Be mindful of the intention of you reaching out to get a love reading and who it is that you're trying to get a love reading on. Just communicate to the fucking person how you're feeling. That's why I felt the need to speak about that. I'm like, bro, just in a way, just speak to the person that you're getting a reading on. It will save you a lot of energy. It will save you a lot of manipulation that you are intending, whether you realize it or not. Communication goes a long way, and I do not recommend love readings for that reason, because a lot of readers that give readings through the love department have this in mind, or they don't realize the intention behind that kind of reading. And for me personally, it gives me the ick. I cannot do a love reading for someone anymore in my lifetime. And I'm not here to shame anyone that does, because there are actual readers out there that do love readings where they have the best intentions. I more so realize and speak about the free will of whoever the love reading's getting done on, that person's not always going to choose you. And more so, love readings, I feel it's more so the intention of the person that's getting it done, and the love reader that's doing it because they just want to get a lot of views. They just want to bait people's intentions, because when someone is getting the reading done, I personally feel like that shows me that you are not communicating to the person that you're getting the love reading done on. And I'm not going to shame love reading because some of them are quite beautiful, as long as both parties are consenting to it. It's like trying to get a reading on someone without their consent. That's the ick vibe that I get. I'm like, you're over here getting a reading on someone without their consent, reading their energy without their consent. That's like trying to do, to me, at least energetically speaking, that's like trying to read, like you're just trying to like do whatever it is without their consent. So what does that say about you? I say this as someone that used to do that, you know? And it got some awareness to get here. I'm like, ooh, this is icky. I used to act like this. I used to want to read people's energy without their consent. And I'm a big person on consent now. So I won't condone it or enable it when someone else asks for a love reading. I'm like, no, I can do a whole ass career reading or advice that you might need for this through this divinational tool I have. But we're not going to do a reading without the other person's consent. Now, if both parties of the reading are involved, then hooray! That's the consent. That's like, there could be actual good advice that comes through a love reading if all parties are involved with consenting to it, rather than just reading someone's energy for the benefit of yours. That's the end of my bloopers for episode 5. I appreciate you. Much love to you and your journey. More to add to this blooper. I don't want my speaking about love readings to shame or instantly villainize people that do love readings. My take or my perspective comes from experience that I used to behave from, and not everyone is behaving like this. This is just more so my experience. And I'm not doing this to like knock down people that like love readers, because there are actual beautiful love readings out there. You can do a love reading and not read someone's energy. You can do a love reading as in like figuring, like just a love reading as in like yourself, as in advice towards love, you know, without having to do the whole shebang of reading someone else's energy. And if it ever reaches into that territory of reading someone else's energy without their consent, that's when I'm like, no, I won't participate in that myself. People are going to, whether they realize it or not. And honestly, it takes awareness to get to this point of seeing certain levels of how one can become manipulative with or trying to read someone else's energy in that way. And yeah, I have seen some beautiful channels out there that do love readings, so, and I do like the concept of how, what's the concept of how some will approach doing the love reading involving all of the higher selves. And when that happens, a lot of people will place these ideas onto someone that's in their head, right? And they try to make it fit. And that's where the delusions will start coming in. That's where the psychosis will start coming in, is when you try to make a reading fit, especially like collective readings, for example. If it's not to a T and you're making it fit for yourself, that's honestly on you. There will be readers that do warnings or announcement like, hey, don't make this fit. I'm telling you right now, if this doesn't fit to a T, do not make this fit for yourself, because that's when you start entering yourself into a psychosis. I guess I wasn't done with the bloopers, but I will officially try to let the bloopers be done now. Much love to you. Thank you for watching.